I did something unforgivable, and for 5 years, I've lived like a ghost because of it. I don't even know why I'm posting this here. I guess I need it to exist somewhere outside of me. I need it to not just be this rotting, infected thing festering under my skin. I've carried it alone for so long that I can't tell what's guilt and what's just muscle memory anymore. I wake up in shame, I fall asleep in fear. That's my routine. That's my life. I don't even talk about him out loud, not to anyone, not even to my best friend, not even when Luna asks. God, especially not when Luna asks. It was supposed to be one night, just one stupid, messed up, too good to be real night, and then I was supposed to go back to my life and forget about it, like a dream I shouldn't have had, like it was a mistake made in the dark, by someone who didn't know better. But dreams don't get you pregnant. Dreams don't turn into little girls with gap teeth and questions you can't answer. He doesn't know. He's never known, and I know how that sounds. I know. I've written this post 1,000 times in my head and every version makes me look like the villain. I get it. Maybe I am. Maybe I deserve all of it. The hiding, the panic, the waking nightmares, the way I flinch every time I hear his name like he's a ghost I summoned. But I didn't plan this. I didn't ask for this. I wasn't trying to trap anyone. I wasn't thinking long term. Hell, I wasn't thinking at all. I was 22 and exhausted and lonely and angry at the world for being so goddamn unfair all the time. And then I met him, and he was everything I shouldn't have wanted. Rich, ice cold, untouchable, way older, the kind of man who makes everyone in the room adjust their spine when he walks in. Elias Cross. Yes, that Elias Cross, the tech guy, the billionaire recluse, the tabloids are always speculating about. The one who made his first 100 million before he ever even kissed someone. Probably. He kissed me. And then he ruined me. No, I ruined myself. That's what I keep telling myself, over and over. Every night I scrub office floors for minimum wage in a building that has his name stamped on the marble lobby. Crosstech Global, his empire, his city, his daughter. Fuck, that still doesn't feel real when I say it. His daughter. She's 4 now. She has his eyes. She tilts her head when she's thinking, just like he does. I still remember him doing that night, watching me like I was something he couldn't quite decode, like I wasn't supposed to be there, which I wasn't. But he didn't mind. Or maybe he did. I don't know. I've gone over every second of that night so many times I can't tell what was real and what I just needed to believe was real. What I do know is that I never should have left that note. I never should have run. But I panicked. I freaked the fuck out and ghosted him like some one-night stand cliché. No contact. No warning. I just left. And 2 weeks later I found out I was pregnant. I told myself I'd tell him. I rehearsed the words. A dozen drafts in my phone, voicemails I never sent, emails that sat in my drafts folder until they expired. But I always talked myself out of it, because how do you even start that conversation? Hey, remember that night you probably forgot? Surprise, you have a kid now. I mean, he didn't even remember me when I saw him again. That's the part that really broke me. 5 years later, different haircut, tired eyes, cleaning the lobby floors at 2 a.m. while he passed by with his perfect suit and his unreadable face. And he looked right through me, like I was a lamp, like I didn't exist, like he hadn't once held my face like I was breakable and kissed me like I mattered. So yeah, I didn't tell him, and now every time Luna laughs I feel like I'm stealing something. Every time she calls me mommy and looks at me with his eyes I want to throw up from the weight of it. And then he started talking to her, just casually, in the lobby. I was late picking her up from daycare and she sat on one of the benches and I don't know, he noticed her, and something in him changed. He doesn't know she's his, but I think he feels it, and I don't know what I'm going to do when he finds out, because he will. He's too smart not to. I didn't even know who he was at first. That's the worst part. Maybe I wasn't dazzled by the billionaire status, or the legacy name, or the fact that his net worth probably made a noise when it walked into the room. I just saw a man, tall, rigid, too still, standing alone at the edge of a ballroom filled with people who pretended to like each other. And yeah, okay, he looked expensive, like he belonged in one of those ads for watches you can't pronounce the name of. His suit was black, simple, but so sharp it looked dangerous. He didn't smile, not once, not when people greeted him, not when someone clinked a glass nearby, not even when some model-type girl laughed too loud near his shoulder. He just stood there like he'd rather be literally anywhere else. Which was funny, because I felt the same exact way. I wasn't supposed to be there. I was working, one of the catering temps, hair pinned back, black shirt buttoned to the throat, heels blistering my feet. They told us not to speak unless spoken to, not to make eye contact, not to touch anything or anyone. We weren't people, we were background. But I had a panic attack in the staff hallway. I remember it so clearly. Fluorescent lights buzzing, my chest locked up, hands shaking. I needed air. But the nearest exit was the back of the ballroom, through the VIP section. I shouldn't have gone in, I knew that, but the whole world felt like it was closing around my throat, and I just needed 5 goddamn minutes to breathe. So I slipped in, hugged the edge, eyes down, just looking for an open door or an empty corner, and then I saw him, and I felt him before I even really saw him. You know that feeling when someone's watching you? Like a prickle between your shoulder blades, some weird instinct from caveman days or whatever. It was like that, except worse, because when I finally looked up, he was already staring. I froze, because rich men don't look at girls like me, not like that. They look through us, past us, over us, but not at us. He didn't blink, just tilted his head, like Luna does now, Jesus, and kept looking, like I was some equation he couldn't solve, like I was a glitch in his matrix, and I know I should've looked away. I should have run. I should have done literally anything but stand there like a deer in headlights while this walking Forbes cover tried to peel my skin off with his eyes. But I couldn't move. I wasn't scared, not exactly. I mean, yes, he was terrifying, in the way really powerful people are, cold and unreachable, the kind of man who probably hadn't said sorry since kindergarten. But it wasn't that kind of fear. It was fascination, like when you're little and someone tells you not to touch the stove, but the glowing red burner is right there, and some part of you just has to know what it feels like. That was Elias Cross, the red burner, and I touched it anyway. He shouldn't have followed me. That's the part that still doesn't make sense, even now, even after all this time, after all the pieces that have shattered and reassembled into the disaster I now call my life. He shouldn't have followed me. I ran, after we locked eyes, after I realized I wasn't invisible to him. That something about me had flickered in his peripheral and he decided to stare back. I panicked again. Panic layered on top of panic, like a second skin. I dipped back through the side door and into the hallway with the staff only sign that wasn't even straight on the wall. I didn't even think about it. My body just moved, like if I stayed there 1 second longer, I'd combust. I ended up in this tiny off-limits lounge. One of those ridiculous rooms that exists just so rich people can pretend they're tired from standing around being rich. White marble, gold trim, silent air conditioning, velvet chairs, you know, that kind of room. I didn't sit. I couldn't. My whole chest was tightening and my fingers wouldn't stop twitching and I kept thinking, what the hell did I just do? Why did I look at him? Why did he look back? And then he walked in. Not security, not a manager, him. I swear to God my heart stopped, like. Literally, I felt it stall, and then stutter, and then slam back into rhythm like it was trying to make up for lost time. He didn't say anything at first. He just stepped inside and closed the door behind him so quietly it felt intimate, like a whisper. And then we just stood there, him staring, me breathing like I'd sprinted 10 blocks. My hands shaking so hard I tucked them behind my back like some kind of child caught stealing cookies. I wanted to speak. I think I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My brain was just static in shame and the sound of my own blood rushing in my ears. Then he asked, "Do you work here?" And my dumbass said, "No." Like, what? What? I was literally in uniform, name tag and everything. I don't know if I was trying to sound bold or if I just short-circuited from fear, but he didn't call me out. He just stepped closer. He looked at me like I was something unusual, not pretty, unusual, something off script. His head tilted again, slow and curious. "You look like you were drowning," he said. Just that, not a question, just a fact. I didn't know what to say to that either, so I said, "I hate parties." And he smiled, not big. Not even for a full second, but it was there, a flicker, like maybe he hated them too. That's when I knew I should leave. He was clearly someone important, even then, before I knew the name, before I knew what he owned or who his family was or what kind of legacy was stitched into his damn DNA. My instincts screamed, "Leave, Naomi, you do not belong here. This is not your world." But I stayed, because he didn't look away, because for once, I wasn't a body in a black shirt passing hors d'oeuvres. I wasn't a nobody with student debt and 3 roommates and $137 in her bank account. I wasn't even scared anymore. I was seen, and I think I would have done anything to stay seen just a little longer. God, I should have left. I don't know how we got from that room to the street. I remember the carpet under my shoes, and then the elevator, and then suddenly we were outside, in the freezing night air, walking side by side like it was something we'd always done, like we were a thing that made sense. I kept waiting for someone to stop us, to drag me back to the kitchen, to tell me this doesn't happen to people like you. But no one did. He didn't talk much at first. I thought maybe that was it, that we'd walk a block, he'd get a call, or remember who he was, or realize I wasn't worth the curiosity, and that would be it. But he asked me what my name was, and when I told him, he said, Naomi, like he was trying it on, like it tasted strange in his mouth, and then he said, that means pleasant, doesn't it? Which, yeah, is not something most people know, or say, especially not at 1 a.m. while walking beside a temp caterer in Midtown. I laughed, I don't even remember why, just this choked little laugh like I couldn't believe this was real, or like if I didn't laugh I'd cry. He looked at me sideways like he wasn't sure if I was making fun of him or if I just couldn't hold it together. He said, I don't do this, that's all, no context. Just, I don't do this, and I said, me either, which is probably the only true thing I said all night. We ended up at a hotel, one of his, though I didn't know that until later, a sleek, almost too quiet place with soft lights and a concierge who didn't even blink when we walked through the door like we belonged together. We didn't talk in the elevator. He stared straight ahead, I stared at the floor, but something shifted in the silence, something cracked open. I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't lust, not at first. It wasn't about sex. It felt like relief, like something inside both of us was so tightly wound that it finally just snapped. I think we both needed to forget who we were. I think maybe he needed that even more than I did. The suite was, God, it was unreal. The windows were floor to ceiling. The sheets were probably imported from somewhere I couldn't pronounce. But none of that mattered. What mattered was that I wasn't invisible in that room. He touched me like I wasn't. He didn't rip my clothes off or try to impress me or talk dirty like some cliché. He just looked at me, slowly, carefully, like he wanted to memorize me, like he didn't know how to be gentle but was trying anyway. When he kissed me, it felt like falling into something I knew I wouldn't survive. And I didn't. I told myself I could handle it, that it wouldn't mean anything, that it was just a night, one night. People have one-night stands all the time. It's not a big deal. You go home, you move on, you forget. That's how it works, right? But it didn't work that way. Because in the middle of it, when his forehead rested against mine and he whispered something I couldn't understand because his voice broke halfway through, I felt it, that horrible, terrible, beautiful feeling, the one you're not supposed to have with someone you barely know, the one that means this will ruin you. And I let it happen. I let him in. I let myself believe, even for a second, that maybe I wasn't a mistake to him, that maybe I could be someone more. But it was still just a night, and I was still just a girl he wouldn't remember. I woke up to silence, not the comforting kind, the kind that makes your stomach drop before your brain even catches up, the kind that tells you you're alone before you've even opened your eyes. The bed was still warm beside me. That was the worst part, like he'd only just left, like he was still echoing in the room even though the door had already closed behind him. There was a glass of water on the nightstand, one of those fancy bottles that costs more than my lunch budget for the week, and a folded blanket at the end of the bed, like someone had gently tried to make it look like they'd never been there at all. He didn't leave a note, not a text, not a number, just absence, clean and clinical, which, fine, I didn't expect anything. I'm not stupid. I knew what it was, or what it wasn't, but something in me cracked anyway, some ugly, stupid part of me that thought maybe, I don't know, that maybe it had meant something, not love, not a future, just something. But no, just water and silence and sheets that smelled like him. I got dressed in the bathroom, didn't look in the mirror, couldn't. My face felt like someone else's, my body didn't even feel real, just fabric and skin and regret. I remember my hands shaking while I tore a sheet of hotel stationery from the desk. My pen leaked, the Y in my name smudged. The whole thing looked pathetic, like a child's apology note. I didn't know what to say. Thank you felt cheap, sorry felt worse. I didn't even use his name, I just wrote, I needed last night. I hope you forget it, don't worry. I'm gone. And then I ran. I didn't take the elevator. I took the fucking stairs, 12 flights down in boots that blistered my heels raw. Heart pounding in my ears the whole time, like someone was chasing me, like guilt already had a face and was coming around the corner. The city was too bright, too loud, too alive for how dead I felt inside. And I kept telling myself, you did the right thing. He didn't ask you to stay. He didn't care. It was one night, that's it. You left before he could throw you away. But none of it made the sick feeling go away. None of it prepared me for what would come next. None of it prepared me for the test. I stole the test from the pharmacy aisle. I mean, I paid for it. I wasn't that desperate, but I walked through that CVS like I was committing a crime, hoodie up, sunglasses on. Even though it was raining, I shoved it between granola bars and tampons like that made it less real, like if the cashier couldn't see it, it wouldn't exist, like if I didn't look at it in the bag, it couldn't ruin me. I didn't go home, I couldn't, my roommates were always around and I couldn't handle small talk or questions or God forbid someone asking me if I was okay. So I went to campus, the third-floor library bathroom, the one with the flickering light and the broken lock that nobody used. I locked myself in the far stall and sat there with the test in my shaking hands for, I don't know, 20 minutes. The directions were stupid, like a children's board game. Pee here, wait 5 minutes. Hope you're not about to become a statistic. I remember thinking, this is a joke. It has to be. People like me don't get pregnant from one-night stands with billionaires. That's not a real thing. That's a bad fanfic. That's a lie you tell to get attention. That's not me. I peed. I waited. I didn't breathe. The stick turned blue. And I just sat there, in that grimy bathroom stall, staring at it like it was lying to me. Like maybe if I stared long enough, it would change its mind. Like maybe I could blink and it would unhappen. Like maybe if I cried hard enough, the universe would feel bad and rewind time. But it didn't, of course it didn't. And I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. I cried until I was hiccuping into my elbow and biting my sleeve to muffle the noise. I cried like someone had died, because someone had, me, the version of me who had a future, who had a plan, who was just 1 year away from getting the hell out of her past, gone. And then came the question I couldn't outrun. What the fuck do I do now? I googled abortion clinics. I sat on my dorm floor that night and opened 6 tabs and read every terrifying comment thread I could find. I tried to be practical. I made a pros and cons list. I wrote it out on an index card and folded it in half like that would help. I told myself it was the only option, that I didn't want a baby, that I couldn't have one, that I was too broke, too young, too alone, and I believed that, right up until I didn't. Right up until I woke up at 3 a.m. 3 nights in a row holding my stomach and whispering I'm sorry to something that wasn't even real yet. I made the appointment, then I cancelled it, then I made another one, and cancelled again. I think part of me was waiting for a sign, something, anything, a text from him, a phone call, an apology, a dream, I don't know. But the only sign I got was morning sickness so violent I threw up outside a Rite Aid and cried into a plastic bag, and somehow that made it real, somehow that made it hers. I told myself I'd tell him. I did, I swear I did. I had it all planned out. What I'd wear, something normal, not too desperate. How I'd say it, not dramatic, just clear. Where we'd meet, somewhere public, so I wouldn't freak out and run again. I even rehearsed it in the mirror. You probably don't remember me, but I'm pregnant, it's yours. But every time I got that far, my voice caught in my throat like it was choking on the truth. Because here's the part one hate admitting. He didn't remember me, not even a flicker. A few weeks after the gala, I saw his face on the news. It was this interview. Some business conference in Berlin. I was eating ramen in my pajamas and trying not to throw up, and there he was, same suit, same jaw, same dead serious eyes, talking about global expansion like he didn't just ruin someone's life without even knowing it. And when the reporter asked him something off script, about legacy, about family, about relationships, he laughed, not cruel, just disconnected. Distant. That's not something I make time for, he said, like love was a hobby, like people were inconveniences. And I remember sitting there on that shitty dorm bed with my laptop overheating my thighs, thinking, he doesn't even know my name, and that wrecked me more than the 2 pink lines ever could. Because if he'd remembered, if there had been even a moment of her, maybe I would have found the courage, maybe I would have emailed him, called, shown up like a lunatic, maybe I would have believed I wasn't just a line item he never noticed. But there was nothing. And how do you drop a baby on a man who forgot you existed? How do you show up 5 months pregnant and say, hey, remember that night you blacked out emotionally? Surprise. It changed my life. Want a co-parent? You don't. You don't. So I buried it. I blocked his name on Google Alerts. I deleted the test pictures from my phone. I stopped saying his name out loud, even in my own head. He became him, that man, the mistake. I told people I didn't know the father, and technically, that was true, because he never really saw me. And now I'm stuck in this stupid twisted joke of a life, where I walk past his name every single day on the building I Clean, where I smile politely at executives who wear his logo like armor, where I hear people talk about him like he's a god, and I pretend I'm not shaking, I pretend I'm not hiding, but I am, God, I am, and it gets harder every time Luna asks why she doesn't have a dad. I didn't sleep for the first 8 months. I don't mean like, oh new moms are tired, I mean I forgot what sleep felt like. I'd close my eyes and still be awake. I'd blink and hours would pass, or minutes, I couldn't tell. Anymore, everything was a blur of milk-stained hoodies and alarm clocks and aching wrists and trying not to cry louder than the baby. Luna came early, small, wrinkled, angry at the world. She looked like a starved bird the first time I held her, skin too loose for her bones. But her eyes, God, her eyes, dark and focused and so familiar I almost dropped her. No one was in the room when I whispered, "You're his," to her, and no one was there the next morning when I promised her I'd never make her feel like I did. Forgotten, invisible, unimportant. That was the first lie I ever told her. Because you can love someone with everything you have and still make them feel small. Not because you mean to, but because you're too broken to carry them the way they deserve. I became two people. There was Mom Naomi, smiling Naomi, the woman who warmed up formula in the dark with one hand while cradling a wailing newborn in the other, the one who cleaned houses during the day, took online classes at night, rocked a baby at 3 a.m. and still somehow managed to submit papers on time. She was strong, she was unstoppable, she wore exhaustion like armor. And then there was me, the one who sat in the shower with the water turned up too hot, crying into a towel, the one who counted coins at the gas station and prayed the card didn't decline, the one who stared at Luna sometimes and thought I'm not enough for you. I don't think I ever will be. There was one winter, our first together, I didn't have heat. I wrapped Luna in 3 layers of clothes and tucked her into a coat I'd found at a thrift store. I pressed my body against hers all night to keep her warm. My fingers went numb, but I didn't move, not even once. And when she coughed in her sleep, this tiny dry sound that cracked through the silence, I broke. I held her and whispered, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." Like that counted for anything. No one saw us then, no one clapped. No one posted about the strong single mother, no one cared. But we made it, God knows how, but we made it, and sometimes I hate that I'm proud of that, because being proud means accepting this is the life I chose, and some nights, I still dream about the life I didn't. It was supposed to be just another job. That's what I told myself when I signed the contract, late-night janitorial shift, 4 nights a week, decent pay, union protected, health insurance if I stayed long enough. The woman at the hiring desk said I'd mostly be emptying trash and wiping glass, no heavy lifting, no clients to deal with, just me, a vacuum, and a checklist. Perfect, I thought. Something quiet, something simple, something I could do while Luna slept. What I didn't notice, what I didn't want to notice, was the name on the letterhead, Crosstech Global. I should have seen it. The signs were all there, the logo, same sharp silver symbol I'd seen on his cufflink that night, the address, Midtown, glass tower, 26 floors of cold steel and silence. But I didn't put it together. Or maybe I did and I just didn't let myself, because I needed the job, because rent was late again, because Luna's shoes didn't fit and her winter coat had holes and I couldn't afford the luxury of being picky. I didn't connect the dots until my first shift, when I stood in the elevator, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, holding a mop bucket and a clipboard, and saw his name etched into the brass plaque beside the directory, Elias Cross, CEO. I swear my knees locked, like my body tried to physically refuse to move forward. I almost left, right then, pressed the emergency button, made up a family emergency, walked straight back into the night. But then I thought about Luna, about how she smiled that morning when I told her there might be ice cream this weekend, about how she'd hugged me so tight my ribs ached. So I stayed. I told myself I'd never see him. He was a billionaire. Men like him don't come in after hours. Men like him have penthouses and private jets and other continents to haunt. I was a ghost in a uniform. He'd never even feel the air shift around me. And for a while, I was right, week after week, floor after floor. I scrubbed handprints off glass and vacuumed boardroom floors and took out trash bags full of secrets. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, and no one asked me questions. And most nights, it felt like I was the only person in that entire mirrored tomb of a building. Until the elevator dinged one night at 11:47 p.m., and I looked up, and he walked in, just like that. Like fate forgot I asked it so nicely to leave me the hell alone. He didn't see me, not really, not that night. He was on the phone, talking fast, frustrated, in another world entirely. and I was already against the wall, head down, holding a trash bag like a goddamn idiot. He didn't even glance in my direction. But still, I felt it, like something had cracked, like the glass beneath my feet wasn't solid anymore, because he was there, in the same box of air, breathing the same space, close enough that if I reached out, I could have touched the fabric of the suit I remembered crumpling between my fists, and all I could think was, don't look at me, please, please don't look at me, because if he did, I don't know what I would have done, cried, lied, shattered, all of it, none of it, but I knew, in that moment, with every heartbeat that crashed through me, the past wasn't past anymore. I thought I could handle it. I really, really thought I could. I mean, it had been 5 years. I had changed, my face, my body, the way I carried myself. I didn't wear cheap lipstick anymore. I didn't smile unless I meant it. I didn't let myself dream about stupid shit like, what if he remembers me, or, what if he felt it too? I knew better now. But the thing is, no matter how much you change, some part of you always stays stuck in the last moment you mattered to someone, and for me, that was a hotel room I snuck out of like a coward and a man I never really stopped seeing, even when he wasn't there. I was buffing the glass wall outside the main conference room, late again, pushing midnight. The building was mostly dead, just a few late execs and junior analysts high on caffeine and capitalism, and then the air changed. You know how sometimes you feel someone before you see them? Like their energy hits you first, crawls up your spine, grabs your ribs from the inside. That's what happened. I turned, cloth in hand, and there he was, walking across the marble lobby like he owned it, because he did, taller than I remembered, or maybe just straighter, more rigid, like the weight of the world wasn't on his back anymore. It was fused into his bones. He had a phone to his ear, but his eyes scanned the room, sharp, bored, deliberate, like he was always assessing risk, always calculating something no one else could see. His assistant trailed behind him, that woman with the perfect posture and clipboard arms and eyes like she'd kill for him, or because of him, and for half a second, I swear to God, he looked at me, directly. My heart stopped. I felt it, like actually felt it go still in my chest. I waited for the flicker, for the pause, for the moment of recognition, anything, but nothing came. Not a blink, not a twitch. His eyes went through me, and he walked away. I stood there with a smudged rag and a heart pounding so loud I thought someone might hear it echo off the glass, like an idiot, like a fucking ghost in my own body. And I know, he's not the villain in this. I left. I didn't tell him. I disappeared. But something in me cracked wide open in that moment. Because it wasn't that he didn't care. It was that he didn't see. I was nothing to him, not even a bad memory. And I just stood there, silent and still, like I hadn't built my whole goddamn world around a man who never even noticed. I started memorizing his schedule, not on purpose, not like I had a spreadsheet or something creepy. It just happened. You see someone every day, even when you're pretending not to, and your body learns. I knew the exact time his town car pulled up out front, 7:58 a.m., never 7:59. The way the air shifted in the hallway when he arrived, the click of his shoes, the pace of his steps, faster when he was pissed, slower when he was thinking, and I adjusted. I learned to vanish. I'd leave carts abandoned and duck into storage closets like a coward. I took the stairs instead of the elevator. Even when my legs were shaking and my back ached from hauling garbage bins, I got good at pretending I had somewhere to be, anywhere but near him. I became so good at it, people started thinking I was mysterious. One of the other janitors asked if I was afraid of elevators because of a trauma or something, and I almost laughed. Yeah, I wanted to say, my trauma wears a tailored suit and owns the top 40 floors of this building. Bathrooms were my safe zones, not the main ones, the staff ones. The ugly ones with rust-stained sinks and flickering lights. I'd hide in a stall when I heard his voice echo off the walls. When his footsteps got too close, sometimes I just sat there, in silence, not crying, not really breathing either, just frozen. And here's the worst part, the actual worst part. It wasn't fear, it wasn't danger, it was shame. Shame that I had to hide from someone who didn't even know I was there. Shame that my entire nervous system lit up like a house fire because of a man who forgot I existed. Shame that I still felt him, still dreamed about him, still looked at Luna's face and saw his eyes staring back. I thought I'd healed. I told myself I had. Hell, I forced myself to believe it. But trauma doesn't stay buried. It walks, it breathes, and sometimes it wears a $6,000 suit and signs your paycheck. That's what no one tells you about survival. It doesn't feel like strength. It feels like hiding. She was sitting in the bathtub, surrounded by bubbles and these little dollar store animals that barely floated. Her hair was slicked back and soapy. And she kept making this dumb little dolphin noise every time she splashed water at me. I was pretending to be annoyed. Luna, stop, the floor's getting soaked. But I was smiling. I was tired, but I was smiling. And then she just looked at me, serious, like, weirdly serious for a 4-year-old who had just declared war on the shampoo bottle. Mommy, she said, so soft I almost didn't hear her. How come I don't have a daddy? And it was like the air left the room, like the steam disappeared and the world froze and I forgot how to be a person. I just blinked at her. I didn't even say what. Or huh. Or any of the dumb delay tactics parents use. I just sat there on the edge of the tub with the rag in my hand, dripping water onto my jeans, and felt my entire body lock up. Because we hadn't rehearsed that one, I'd been waiting for it, sure, dreading it, but you always think you'll get more time, another year, another month, another bedtime story before she starts digging for the holes in it. But no, she just asked. And I panicked. I said, some families are different, baby, it's just me and you, that's how our family works, which, technically, not a lie, but not the truth either. She frowned. But Chloe has a daddy, and Mateo has a daddy. Did mine get lost? God, I swear my throat closed. What do you even say to that? Yeah, sweetie, he got lost. In his ego and his empire and the memory hole where he dumped your mother. No, baby, he didn't get lost. I hid you from him like a secret I was too scared to say out loud. I told her, you have me, that's enough, isn't it? She nodded. But it was the kind of nod kids give when they know you're lying but don't know how to argue yet. And then she picked up her rubber duck and changed the subject. Just like that, like she could feel the panic radiating off me and decided to give me an out, and that made it worse. Because she trusted me, because she still trusted me, and one day, she won't, one day. She'll ask again, and she'll want the real answer, and I don't know how to give it. I don't know how to look her in the eye and say, I kept him from you, on purpose, and I don't even know if that makes me a good mom or the worst kind of coward, but what I do know. She's not going to forget what I said tonight. Kids remember the first time you flinch. It started with my voice. Of course it did. It was late, again, always late, always when the world goes quiet and your thoughts get too loud. I was on the 19th floor, wiping down glass conference tables, pretending I didn't exist, when I heard the elevator ding. I didn't look up, I never looked up. I just kept my head down and mumbled the same thing I always did when anyone important walked in. Sorry, I'll be out of your way in just a second. And then I heard his voice, low, controlled, flat with that little undercurrent of steel that made your stomach twist. I used to think that voice sounded like safety, now it just feels like a warning siren. He was talking to someone, maybe his assistant, maybe the walls, I don't know. And I wasn't even listening to what he said because my ears were ringing so loud. I was trying to move, trying to pack up my stuff, trying to vanish before he got close enough to breathe the same air, and then, he stopped, mid-sentence. His voice cut off and the silence hit like a punch. And I felt it, that pause, that stillness that crackles with attention, like the moment before a glass tips, like gravity noticed you again. He said, what's your name? And I don't know what took over, I don't know what part of me decided to lie, but it was automatic, instinctual, like a reflex born from too many sleepless nights and too much fear. I said, Janine, which is not my name, obviously. There was another pause, longer, worse. And I felt his eyes on me. I didn't look, but I felt it. Like the weight of recognition trying to crawl up through his chest but never quite making it. He repeated it, Janine. Like he was trying it on, like he didn't buy it, but didn't know why. I laughed, nervous and too high, and said, yeah, sorry, I'll be done in a sec. And then I grabbed my gloves and the spray bottle and bolted like a teenager caught stealing beer. I didn't breathe again until I was in the stairwell. Didn't stop shaking until I was 2 floors down, pressed against the concrete wall like it might swallow me. He doesn't remember me, but his body does. That pause, that look, somewhere in him, maybe buried under 1,000 deals and dead-eyed meetings, somewhere in him, the echo of me still lives, and that should make me feel something, right? Relief? Satisfaction, but all it makes me feel is tired, because he heard my voice, and part of him knew, and I still lied. Like a fucking coward. It was supposed to be a 5-minute errand. That's it, just 5 stupid minutes. Pick up my paycheck from HR, grab Luna from the front bench where the security guard always let her color, and go. We were gonna walk home. Maybe stop for ice cream if the universe wasn't feeling cruel. But I forgot that the universe is always cruel, especially to me. Especially now. I don't know how it happened. Maybe he got out of the elevator early, maybe his schedule shifted, maybe fate was just done watching from the sidelines and decided to F*** me sideways. But I heard her first, her little voice. Do you want a cookie, mister? And my whole body locked. I turned the corner, and there she was, Luna, my baby, standing right there in the middle of the lobby with her backpack still hanging off one arm, holding out one of those terrible dry oatmeal cookies. They give kids an aftercare. She was offering it to him, and Elias Cross. Cold, sharp, unreachable Elias Cross. He wasn't brushing her off. He wasn't scowling or checking his phone or barking for security, no, he'd knelt down. He knelt down to her level, like he saw her, like she was real to him. God, I couldn't move. I don't know what they were saying, everything inside me was screaming and white noise and static. I think he asked her name, I think she told him, because she's never been shy, because she's warm where I'm all ice. And then he said it, he said, you remind me of someone, and I swear I saw something in his face shift, like a memory trying to surface but hitting static, like his brain flickered, just for a second. I almost collapsed. Right there, just, knees on marble, head in hands. It was like being stabbed and kissed at the same time. She does remind him of someone, she is someone, she's his. And he doesn't know. He was smiling at her, smiling, a soft one, that rare kind he only gave me once and never again, and she was giggling, because she thinks strangers are friends and she has no idea what it means to be invisible. I wanted to scream, I wanted to pull her away and run and never stop running. But I didn't, I just watched him hand her the cookie back, watched her break it in half and insist he take it anyway, watched him laugh, and take a bite, and then he looked up, right at me. I don't know if he saw anything in that split second, I don't know if the puzzle pieces even twitched, but I do know that Luna ran over to me right after and said, Mommy, that man has your tired eyes, and I had to smile, and I had to nod, and I had to swallow the part of me that wanted to say, baby. That man has your eyes, too. It was her eyes, not Luna's, hers. Mrs. Whitmore, Elias's personal assistant, right hand, left brain, human firewall, the kind of woman who could coordinate a 6-country merger while sipping black coffee and never smudge her lipstick. I always avoided her like she was made of lasers. But that day, she saw everything. It was after the cookie incident, a couple days later. I should have kept Luna home that day. She had a cough. Not bad enough to stay in bed but just enough to sound like guilt made flesh, but daycare was full. My shift was late, and I convinced myself she'd be fine sitting by the front desk for an hour, coloring in the chair with the duct-taped armrest. That damn armrest, it's always loose. I don't know why that's the detail my brain clings to, but it is. I was just getting off the elevator, arms full of supply bins, sweaty, dead on my feet, and I saw Mrs. Whitmore walking through the lobby. High heels ticking like a metronome from hell. She doesn't see people like me, that's what I thought, that's what I've always told myself, she's not programmed for janitors and ghosts. But then Luna sneezed, a tiny, dry, polite little chew that echoed louder than gunfire in that glass tomb of a lobby. Mrs. Whitmore turned, looked, stopped, and I swear to God, time tilted. She stared at Luna, not with disdain, not even curiosity, with calculation, and then her eyes moved, tracked from Luna's face to mine, like a click in her head. I walked faster, too fast, almost dropped a bin. I muttered, she's waiting for someone, which didn't even make sense, but it was the first lie that showed up. Mrs. Whitmore didn't say anything at first, just nodded, that tiny little nod rich people do when they're filing information for later use. Then, too casually, way too casually, she said, do you have children, Miss Vale, Miss Vale? Like she was pretending not to already know my name, like she hadn't already Googled my entire life. I laughed, I tried to laugh, it sounded like a cough ran into a whimper and died in a hallway. I said, oh, me? No, I just babysit her sometimes, she's my friend's kid, and she smiled, that tight, red, professional smile that feels like a guillotine blade being polished. Of course, she said, and then she walked away. But I swear I could feel her watching me, even with her back turned, even after the elevator closed. My chest wouldn't stop shaking, my fingers went numb, because that wasn't curiosity, that was suspicion. That was the beginning of the end. And it hit me, right there, in my stolen uniform with bleach stains on the cuffs, how close the lie was to cracking, how close everything was to unraveling. All it takes is one sharp-eyed woman in heels. And I swear, I don't think she blinked once. It was the night I stopped pretending I didn't feel anything for him. Not love, not exactly. I wouldn't dare call it that, not then. But something sharp and stupid and too soft to name. It was after we'd, after his mouth on mine. And mine on him, and my back on the hotel sheets I couldn't afford to dream of, after his hands had touched me like I was glass. And maybe that was the scariest part, that he was gentle, that he didn't use me the way I thought men like him used girls like me. He didn't even sleep, just laid there, staring at the ceiling like it had answers he'd never get. I remember I whispered something dumb like, "You okay?" He didn't look at me, but he said, "I don't know how to love people," just like that. No drama, no build-up, like he was ordering coffee. I laughed, God, I laughed, because I thought he was joking. Who says that? Who just throws a sentence like that into the dark and expects it to land gently? But he didn't smile, didn't blink, just kept looking up like he hated what he saw. "I don't," he said again. "I never learned how." And I remember asking, "Did someone try to teach you?" He didn't answer, just reached over, touched my wrist like it hurt him to do it, and then pulled back so fast it made me shiver. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself he was broken, untouchable, not built for soft things. I told myself this was why I could leave and not look back, that even if he had remembered me, even if he'd chased me out that morning, even if I'd told him about the baby, he wouldn't have known how to love her, wouldn't have known how to stay, would have broken her the way someone clearly broke him, right? But the thing is, Luna doesn't need perfect, she just needs him, and maybe he could have figured it out, and maybe the real coward wasn't him, maybe it was me. It's almost funny, almost. The way I found out felt like a joke, like some bitter god with a clipboard looked at my life and said, "Let's really twist the knife now." I was dragging trash bags through the service corridor. Those big industrial ones that leak mystery juice if you even look at them wrong. And the maintenance guy, Rick, the one with the crooked back and a soft spot for Luna, was fixing a ceiling panel. And I said something dumb like, "Did something break up there?" And he grunted, "Penthouse unit. Guy's been gone a while, back now, though, you can always tell. Lights on all night." And I froze. Because there's only one penthouse unit in Crosstech Tower, only one person who has a view of the skyline so high it looks fake, only one name on that damn gold-plated elevator button, Elias Cross. He lives right above me, like directly, me, in my shoebox janitor's quarters with the pipe that hisses and the window that doesn't open. Him, in a glass palace that probably has a shower bigger than my kitchen. I can hear footsteps sometimes, not often. He's quiet like that. But sometimes late at night, there's this hum, like music you can't quite catch. Sometimes it's piano, other times it's silence that feels heavier than sound. And I stand there, in my threadbare socks, Luna sleeping in the next room, holding a chipped mug of instant coffee, wondering if he's alone up there, if he's staring down at the same streetlights, if he's ever looked through the floor and felt anything. And it hits me, he's above me, not just in money, or power, or name, literally, physically. He lives above me, like a metaphor I didn't ask for. And maybe that's all we've ever been, him up there, me down here, not just floors, but galaxies. And the sick part? I still look up. Of course the elevator had to break, I swear. If karma were a person, she's got a personal vendetta against me. I was on my way up with a mop bucket and the smell of bleach soaked into my sleeves, thinking I'd make it to floor 26 and clean the executive bathrooms without seeing anyone. That was the plan. That's always the plan. Be invisible, get paid, survive. And then the doors opened at 32 and he walked in. Elias Cross. Suit perfectly pressed, no tie, collar unbuttoned just enough to look human, not enough to be approachable. He looked tired, not in the normal way, in that haunted, never sleeps, too much on his back kind of way. I didn't look at him, not really, just stared at the floor numbers like they were holy scripture. I was so close. But then the elevator jolted, stopped, just like that, frozen mid-floor between 28 and 29. I think I whispered, "No, no, no," before I even realized it. He didn't panic, of course he didn't. He pressed the emergency call button, leaned against the wall like it was just another Tuesday, and then he looked at me, actually looked, his brow pinched. "You okay?" I think I nodded, I think I lied. Then he did something that shouldn't have hurt but did. He reached into his bag and offered me a bottle of water, like I was some stranger he was trying to be polite to on a train. "Thanks," I said, and took it with a hand I hoped wasn't visibly shaking. We didn't speak after that, just silence. A few buzzing sounds from the intercom, something about a tech team coming, delays. And in that silence, I made the mistake of looking at him, really looking. He was looking at me too. Our eyes met. Something flickered. It was so fast, so small, a pause in his breath, maybe, a twitch at the corner of his mouth, like he almost remembered something. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab his face and make him remember. Make him say my name, make him see Luna's eyes in mine, make him see me. But then he looked away, just turned his head like it meant nothing, and in that second, I hated him. And I hated myself more for wanting him to see me at all. The elevator groaned back to life. The doors opened. He stepped out first. Didn't look back. Didn't even know what he'd left behind. It was a Tuesday, I think. One of those long, gray days where your bones hurt and your brain feels like it's buzzing under a wet towel. I was going through Luna's little sparkly backpack, looking for the permission slip I'd forgotten to sign. Or maybe I was just checking if she'd stolen more sugar packets. From the cafe again, she does that, hides them like tiny treasures, says they're princess dust. I let her, and then I found it, folded twice, tucked behind her crayon box like a secret, a drawing, stick figures, purple and green and too much red, normal, right? Except the man in the drawing. He had gray eyes. She even wrote it, sloppy, reversed letters. His eyes looked like mine. I couldn't breathe. Not because of the drawing. Kids draw weird stuff all the time, but because the eyes were right, that washed out silver, that unreadable stare, the kind of eyes that saw everything and said nothing. And I knew exactly who she meant. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at that paper until my vision blurred. My hands were shaking. I wanted to tear it up. I wanted to frame it. How the hell did she know? We've never talked about him. I never showed her a picture. I buried that night so deep I can't even say his name when I pray. And still, somehow, she knows. Maybe it's in her blood. Maybe it's something in the mirror, I don't know. But she sees him, even if she doesn't know it. And that's what gutted me. She's four. And even she knows there's a piece missing. A man with her eyes, a father she's never met, a secret that keeps growing teeth. I folded the drawing and put it back. Because what was I supposed to do? Tell her she was right? Tell her mommy's a coward? She already knows. She asked for my file. Just like that. Like it was normal, like she had any right. Mrs. Whitmore stopped me on the mezzanine stairs. Those sharp, echoey steps that make every footfall sound like judgment. She had her clipboard tucked against her hip and this polite little smile that felt more like a blade than anything warm. I was reviewing personnel rosters, she said, all crisp syllables and lemon water voice. And I noticed you weren't in the digital archives. Can you send me your onboarding paperwork? For HR purposes, right. I mumbled something like, sure, I'll check, and smiled, and kept walking, and my legs didn't give out until I hit the janitor's closet 2 floors down. I shut the door and slid down the wall and just sat there breathing like I'd run a marathon in wet cement. She knows. Or maybe she doesn't. Maybe she just suspects. Or maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's everything. I tried to tell myself I was being paranoid, that there are 100 reasons someone might ask for a janitor's file, that she didn't even look suspicious, that I'm just tired. But that's a lie. She's not stupid. Mrs. Whitmore sees everything. She was the one who remembered my name before I said it, the one who asked, way too casually, if I had children, the one who glanced between Luna and Elias like she'd solved an equation and didn't like the answer. God, I should have quit. I should have never taken this job. I should have packed up and run the second I saw his name on the building, but I didn't, because we needed the money, because I thought I could hide in plain sight, because I thought invisibility was still a skill I had. But she's digging, and Elias is paying attention to things again. And Luna drew his eyes. The walls are closing in. And all I can think about is the damn note I left him 5 years ago, the one I wrote in a panic, with shaking hands, and stuffed into a drawer and ran. What if she finds it? What if he finds it? What if this whole house of cards I've been living in finally caves and I lose the only thing I didn't break yet? I can survive a lot of things, but I don't think I could survive losing her, not because I stayed too long, but because I waited too late. It was 2:47 a.m., I know because I checked the clock 5 times. I wasn't supposed to be on that floor, not that late, but the damn trash chute was jammed and the elevator skipped again and I had to loop around through the executive kitchen just to get back to the janitor station. My back hurt, my legs were soaked in mop water, my brain was soup. I just wanted coffee, stale, burnt, bitter coffee from the executive Keurig they think we don't touch. I was pouring it into my thermos when the door opened behind me and I felt it before I saw it. that presence, him. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, watching, like he was deciding something. Or maybe remembering. I froze. The cup slipped. Coffee splashed across the counter, ran in long lines toward his expensive shoes. I swore, tried to grab napkins. My hands were useless. I couldn't stop shaking, and then he was beside me, picking up the thermos, handing me a towel. So casual, like we were co-workers, like we were nothing. Except, his hand brushed mine, and I swear to God, it felt like static, like the universe hiccuped. We both stopped. I looked up and for the first time, he looked back, not through me, not past me, at me. His mouth parted just slightly and I thought he was going to say it, like his brain was crawling towards something he'd buried 5 years ago in a hotel bed he probably forgot. You smell, he said, quiet, almost unsure, familiar, and I broke. I laughed, or maybe I choked, I don't know, my whole body was screaming. Fabric softener, I said, generic brand, doesn't really linger. He blinked, tilted his head, something flickered, then vanished. He stepped back. The spell shattered. He nodded, muttered something about late hours, and walked out. I wiped the counter like it mattered, like any of this mattered. I stood there scrubbing a spotless surface while my chest caved in, because I felt it. For 1 second, he almost saw me, and that was somehow worse than not being seen at all. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind that feels normal until you realize nothing ever is. I was in the break room, tired, brain fogged, staring at a half-drunk tea. When I saw him, not looking for me, not walking past, he was in the archives. And here's the thing, I do not go into the archives. It's full of old files and dusty cardboard boxes and whatever HR dumps when they get bored. It's not my world. But he was there, bent over a crate marked miscellaneous. He pulled out a folder, flipped through papers, then, my note, dirted and creased and somehow still legible. Thank you for that night. I didn't know how to say goodbye. I had forgotten it existed. I mean, I lost that note on purpose. Almost dropped it in a trash bin after that panic-fueled exit from the hotel. But it survived, somehow. Rosetta stoned in a box I never thought would see daylight again. He stared at it, head tilted, lips pressed together. I watched from the doorway, frozen, silent, my heart shredded. His assistant's voice crackled in the background, didn't look like she planned to peek, and he tucked the note into his pocket like he'd swallowed it whole. He didn't slam it, didn't toss it, didn't even gasp. He just paused. And I realized that was all it took, just a pause. Because if he paused, he remembered. He remembered me, or the ghost of me, the version of me he didn't acknowledge, but something inside him did. He started putting things together, the night in the elevator, the water, the note, our lives crossing again and again in a building I clean. I don't know what he's feeling, confusion, anger, regret, curiosity, all of it, probably. All I know is, the confession is coming, I can't stop it now. He used to flinch when I touched him, not dramatically, not like a movie scene or some big dramatic recoil. Just a wince, a breath held too long, shoulders that stayed stiff under my hands. That night, our night, he wouldn't even turn the lights off. I'd reached for the switch, instinctively, because I thought maybe it'd help us both forget who we were for a minute, and he just whispered, "Leave it on." I didn't ask why. I should've, but I didn't want to break it, whatever fragile, aching thing that was blooming between us. Later, when he thought I was asleep, I felt him tremble, not from cold, from something older, deeper, something that had grown in his bones long before I ever touched him. He told me, halfway through that night, that he didn't know how to love people, like it was some kind of confession, but also, not, just a fact, like he was broken and too used to being broken to even mourn it anymore. When I was a kid, my dad used to say love was weakness. He said that to my mother with his fist in the wall. I remember that. I remember his eyes when he said it, the way he looked. Like he was halfway between 12 years old and already dead, and I still left him out of this. I left him completely out. I didn't even give him the chance to try. I told myself it was because he wouldn't care, because he wouldn't remember, because he wouldn't want her. But maybe that was the lie that made all the other lies easier to swallow. Maybe I didn't think he'd be a bad father. Maybe I just thought he'd be a hurt one. And maybe I was too much of a coward to risk him hurting her the way his father hurt him. But now I wonder if I was cruel, if I took the only chance he had to rewrite that story. And maybe I'm no better than the man who told him love was weakness. It was raining, of course it was raining. It always **king rains when your life implodes, right? Like the sky just wants to humiliate you one last time. I saw him before he saw me. Or maybe he saw me first, I don't know, doesn't matter. He was leaning against my beat-up Civic like he owned the pavement under it. Like he owned the moment, like he'd been waiting for this to be true all along and was just giving me time to come clean. I almost turned around, almost bolted back into the building and locked myself in the janitor's closet like a damn raccoon. I didn't. My legs moved without me, forward, toward the end of everything. I didn't even say hi, neither did he. We just stood, rain hitting my hair, his suit. The silence between us felt like a scream, and then he said it. She's mine, isn't she? Just like that, no warm-up, no build-up, not a question, not really, not the way he said it. He said it like a sentence, like a verdict, like a truth he'd been trying to unfeel for weeks, and I opened my mouth, nothing came out, my throat tightened, like grief was climbing up it with claws. I wanted to lie, I wanted to run, I wanted to melt into the King sidewalk. But I didn't do any of it. I just looked at him, and he saw it. I think he always had, somewhere deep down. His jaw tightened, and I thought, for a second, he was going to yell, or walk away, or break something, but he just blinked, one time, slowly, then he whispered it again, but lower. Say it. I couldn't. Say she's mine. I couldn't. He nodded, just once, like, yeah, okay, that's all I needed, and I watched him walk away, slowly, like the air was thicker now, like he was dragging a new weight with him. His footsteps echoed against the wet asphalt and I swear I could feel them in my spine. I slid into my car and closed the door and just sat there with the rain hammering down, and all I could think was, I didn't say it, but I didn't deny it either. It started with her not finishing her juice box. That's the stupid part one can't stop thinking about. King juice box, apple, her favorite. She said her tummy hurt and pushed it away and curled up on the couch like a question mark. And I didn't think anything of it at first. I told her to rest, kissed her forehead, told her I'd make soup. But then she didn't answer when I called her name, and when I walked back in, God, she was just still, not sleeping still, wrong still. I shook her shoulder, nothing. Her lips were pale, her fingers curled too tight. The scream that came out of me wasn't even human. I think I scared the neighbors. I hope I did. I don't remember the ambulance. I don't remember the drive or the lights or the blur of strangers with gloves and wires and cold, practiced voices. I only remember the waiting room, the taste of metal in my mouth from biting the inside of my cheek so hard I bled, my hands shaking so bad I dropped my phone, twice, and then the nurse said the words that snapped something inside me wide open. We need a blood match, immediate family, and I didn't think. I just said his name, like it was the most natural thing in the world, like I hadn't spent 5 years pretending he was just a bad dream. I said it and gave them the number I'd memorized by accident, from all the late-night billing labels and corporate memos I'd filed at Crosstech. Elias Cross. I told them to call Elias Cross. He was there in 20 minutes, still in a suit, still buttoned to the throat. He didn't ask questions. He didn't even look at me at first, just gave his ID, rolled up his sleeve, signed something, and followed the nurse like he'd already known this day would come. And maybe he had. Maybe he'd been waiting for the universe to break me open. I stood in that sterile hallway, my fingers dug so deep into my own arms I left bruises, watched the red line of blood move through the tube from his arm, into the machine, into the world that should have always known him, and I thought, this is what she needed from the start. Not me, not my patchwork lies and dollar store band-aids and 5 different jobs just to afford rent and off-brand cereal. She needed him, and I gave them his name too late. It wasn't supposed to be like that. It wasn't supposed to be in a hospital hallway under buzzing fluorescent lights and the smell of antiseptic and baby soap. It wasn't supposed to be a nurse with too much mascara clearing her throat and saying, Mr. Cross? We just wanted to confirm, genetically speaking, she is your daughter. She didn't even flinch when she said it, just handed him a folder like it was a grocery receipt, and he didn't move, not at first. He didn't say anything, didn't breathe, didn't even blink, just stood there with that folder in one hand and the other clenched so tight I could see the whites of his knuckles, like something inside him was either going to shatter or explode, and he didn't know which. And me? I was already broken. I slid down the wall, just sat there, legs folded weird, forehead to my knees, sobbing like my body had been waiting 5 years for permission to finally fall apart. I don't even know if the sound was coming out of me or if I was just hearing it inside my skull like a scream echoing in a tin can. People walked past. Someone asked if I needed water. A nurse tried to help. I waved them all off like a wounded animal, and when I finally looked up, he was still standing there. But this time, he was in front of the nursery glass, his hand pressed to the window. Luna was sleeping inside, tiny, pale, hooked up to tubes she didn't deserve, curled like a comma under a too big blanket, and he just watched her, for what felt like forever, like if he blinked, she'd disappear again. Like he was seeing her for the first time, and every missed birthday and scraped knee and giggle and tantrum was slamming into him at once. I didn't go to him, I couldn't, I felt like I'd stolen something sacred and gotten caught in the act. He turned his head, just slightly, didn't look at me, didn't speak. His reflection in the glass was pale and hollowed out, and he looked like me, like someone who'd been living underwater for 5 years. And the only thing I could think, the only thought that looped like some sick nursery rhyme was, the blood doesn't lie. But I didn't even wait for him to ask. The second we were outside, I just started, like something in my chest finally cracked and all the rot spilled out. I told him everything, every disgusting, shameful, selfish moment. From the way I left that hotel room like a coward to the sticky pregnancy test in the gas station bathroom to the nights I screamed into a pillow so Luna wouldn't hear me break. I told him how I stared at the name Elias Cross in my phone contact for 6 straight hours before deleting it, twice. How I stood outside his office building once, just stood there, with Luna in a stroller and a lie in my mouth, and I turned around before we even made it past the security desk. How I made up stories for her, said he was an astronaut, a secret agent, a hero. I told him I was scared he wouldn't believe me, scared he would, that he'd try to take her or reject her or look at her the way he used to look at himself in the mirror, like he was nothing. I didn't want to give her that, I didn't want to give him that, but that's bullshit, isn't it? The truth, the real truth, the one I've been circling around like a coward for 5 years, is that I wasn't protecting Luna, I was protecting me, because if I told him, then it would be real, then I'd have to let him in, let him near her, near me. And what if he left again? What if he hurt her? What if she looked at me one day and asked why I picked a man like that to be her father? What if she loved him? I couldn't handle it, I couldn't share her. She was the only good thing I'd ever done, the only proof that I wasn't just a walking, talking fuck up. She smiled like me, she slept curled up like me, she needed me. If I gave her to him, what would I have left? I told him all of it. He just listened. That's the part that's haunting me. He didn't yell, didn't cry, just listened, like he knew this was the punishment. Watching me confess every ugly detail, every time I chose fear over love, silence over truth. I said, I thought I was protecting her, and I meant it, but it sounded so pathetic in the air between us, like the kind of lie you tell when you've run out of better ones. He didn't say anything back. He just sat there, and I don't know what's worse, that he didn't scream at me, or that I kind of wanted him to. Needed someone to slap the guilt out of me, shake it loose, scream that I ruined everything. But he didn't, and now I feel like I'm floating above my own body, like I said it all and I'm still somehow full of it, like I could talk for another 5 hours and still not be clean. I thought confession would feel lighter, but it just made me hollow. He didn't come in the next day, or the day after that, or the one after that. His name disappeared from the elevator panel, just blinked out like he'd never existed at all. No meetings, no sightings, no footsteps overhead in the penthouse at 2 a.m. When I used to lay there listening, wondering if he ever paced like I did, Mrs. Whitmore wouldn't look at me. The receptionist said, Mr. Cross is taking personal leave, that's it, no return date, no contact. And just like that, he was gone, not dead, not fired, not hospitalized or in a coma or any of the things my brain desperately tried to make up to cushion the blow. No, just vanished. Like I finally told the truth and the universe decided, good job, now watch him walk away, and maybe I deserve that. Maybe that's the price. You hide a child for 5 years, you lie to the one person who had the right to know, you steal a lifetime of memories, and you don't get forgiven, you get silence, you get his absence. I kept checking my phone like an idiot, like he was going to text some big, dramatic monologue, or even just, I can't do this, something, anything. But the notifications stayed dry, and my hopes started to rot. And the worst part? The worst part is that I still looked for him, every hallway, every stupid, silent hallway. I'd push my cart past conference rooms and feel this ache in my spine like a ghost had brushed it. I'd turn around too fast every time the elevator dinged. I'd hope, like I didn't kill it myself. Luna asked if Mr. Cookie Man was coming back. I said probably not. She asked if he made me sad. I told her no. She touched my face like she didn't believe me. Kids know. I thought I lost him that first morning after the hotel. when I left before he could remember my name. But this was different. This time, I'd earned it. I was scrubbing rust off a stairwell railing when I heard his voice again, not in my head, not in one of those cruel, echoed memories I keep playing on loop at 3 a.m., but real, present, heavy in the air behind me. Naomi. I dropped the sponge, my fingers stung with bleach and disbelief. I turned, slowly, like if I moved too fast, I'd scare him off, like he was an animal that had wandered too close, and if I blinked, he'd vanish back into the shadows he came from. But he didn't vanish. He stood there, suit, no tie, coat still damp like he hadn't even waited to dry off before coming here. Or maybe it had nothing to do with rain, maybe that was just him now, softer around the edges. He looked like someone who hadn't slept. Or maybe that was just me, seeing too much of myself in him, again. I didn't say anything, couldn't, I just stared, swallowed, waited for the storm, but he didn't yell, he didn't ask why or how or what the fuck I was thinking. He just exhaled. I'm not here because I'm angry. My heart made this awful sound in my chest, like rust cracking off a hinge. He stepped forward, slow, measured, until we were just a few feet apart, close enough that I could see the tired in his eyes, and the something else, something breaking open. I'm here because I still want this. My throat closed. This. Both of you. And I wanted to believe him, God. I wanted to believe him so badly I felt my knees wobble. I wanted to fall into his voice like a bed I hadn't laid in 5 years. But I also wanted to scream, run, apologize again, beg him not to change his mind. Because people say things like that when they're overwhelmed, when they're still in shock, when they don't understand the full gravity of what they're stepping into. And I've seen what happens when someone like him tries to carry something like me. He reached out, not all the way. Just enough that I could close the gap if I wanted to. But I didn't. I just stood there, shaking. I wanted to say something beautiful, something final. Instead I said the one thing I'd been afraid to admit since this all started. I don't know how to be forgiven. I thought maybe he was leaving again. He was quiet that whole morning, too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you brace. Like when the air stills before a storm and even the birds shut up. He didn't say much over breakfast, just watched Luna draw spirals in her cereal milk and smiled like it hurt, like she was something he never thought he'd be allowed to hold. I don't know why we ended up at that park. Maybe because Luna kept talking about ducks, maybe because he needed air, maybe because I was seconds from unraveling, and if I stayed inside any longer, I was going to scream or cry or confess something I couldn't undo. Or maybe he already knew. He always knew. Somehow, she ran toward the pond in those glitter shoes that have no traction, skidding through wet grass, laughing like she didn't know the world could fall apart, like she didn't know it already had. And he just stood there next to me, hands in his coat pockets, eyes on her like he was trying to memorize something he'd never get to keep. I was afraid to speak, afraid to break it, afraid to ruin this fragile, impossible thing that was almost starting to feel real. And then he did it. Not like a movie. Not with a speech or a crowd or a velvet box or a sunset or a violin or whatever bullshit Pinterest sells you. He just knelt, slow, heavy, like it cost him something, like it meant something. I couldn't breathe. He didn't even look up at first. He just stared at the grass, then at her, then finally, at me. You saved me, Naomi. I wanted to interrupt. I wanted to say no. I didn't. I destroyed you. I lied. I ran. I don't deserve this. But I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I just stood there. With my hands clenched so tight my nails cut into my palm. With her, he said, nodding toward Luna. And without meaning to. With you. That's when I cried. I didn't want to, God. I didn't want to. But it cracked something in me, some guilt that had calcified, some ache I'd been holding too long. I cried because I believed him. For one stupid, fleeting second, I believed him. And he didn't pull out a ring. He didn't ask anything. Not really. He just said, I still want this. If you do, no pressure, no threats, no demands. Just a question dressed up like a maybe, like a lifeline. I didn't say yes, not right away. I didn't say anything. I sat down in the grass next to him, knees soaked, mascara ruined, heart thudding like it couldn't tell if this was heaven or heartbreak. He took my hand anyway. Luna called for us to look at the ducks. Her laugh cracked the silence. I don't know if that moment saved me. I don't know if it fixed anything, but I wanted it, God, I wanted it, and that might be the scariest part of all. I guess that's it. That's everything. I've said it all now. Every awful selfish, trembling piece of it, every lie I told him, every choice I made alone, every time I looked at her and saw his eyes and hated myself for it, every second I wanted to tell the truth but couldn't, every time I almost did and didn't, every breath I held. Every night I stared at the ceiling and whispered I'm sorry like it was a prayer that could undo anything. I kept it all in for so long, it rotted me from the inside, like a wound I never cleaned, just covered and ignored and hoped would disappear on its own. But it didn't, it festered, it changed me. Maybe I was the villain, maybe I still am, maybe I was just scared, maybe that's worse. But I loved him, I love her, and if this post does anything at all, it's just to let that truth live somewhere outside of me. Somewhere it can breathe, because I can't carry it anymore. I'm so tired, God. I'm so tired. This isn't an apology, or a cry for help, or even a goodbye. It's just the truth, my truth, the only thing I have left to give. So, yeah, I don't know if hitting post is a mistake, but I'm tired of carrying this alone.